First of all, a warm welcome to everyone taking time out of your busy schedule to join a session. And it's a pleasure to welcome our speaker today, Narayani. Narayani comes with about 15 years of corporate experience as a learning and development specialist at AstraZeneca, RBS, HCL, and Virtusa. So Narayani has designed and delivered learning journeys that have impacted more than 40,000 learners across industries and leadership levels. Today, her clientele includes CSK, JGC, THOTS, Spark, Growth AXL, and more. She's a learning architect who ensures that learning moves the needle through behavior change, business results, and clear ROI. Her expertise spans a wide spectrum of leadership and behavioral skills like influential communication, building trust and psychological safety, shaping organization culture, people management, emotional intelligence, productivity and performance improvement, interpersonal effectiveness, stakeholder management, conflict resolution, entrepreneurial mindset, and the list goes on. She's a certified on a situation leadership, DISC, NLP, and instructional design. And she is a DDI certified facilitator, and also she is an ICF PCC coach in the making. We truly excited to have her with us today. Without further delay, let's dive into the session. Over to you, Narayani.
Thank you very much, Naveen, for almost reading out a novel about me. Um, I hope I'm loud and clear and
Yes, I'm able to
everyone
hear you.
can hear me. Okay, perfect.
Let's get a
Um,
quick confirmation from the audience as well.
yeah, I can see a few thumbs up. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, yes, perfect. Thank you very much to all the lovely ladies. I guess most of you should be ladies. Thank you very much for joining, and thanks for taking out the time on a Friday evening and choosing to learn. I appreciate you for that. Those of you who have just joined after a heavy meal or after a nap, you've come this far successfully. You've logged in and you've joined. Very good. You just have to be there for another hour. Okay. Thank you. We'll quickly dive into the session. Thanks, Naveen and SkillUpRight team for having me here. It's a pleasure. I also have Vinod, who will be helping me with some of the training polls and activities. Now, all of you are intentionally kept on mute and off camera because we're expecting a large number. There are almost about 100 people so far. Um, and so please use the chat. So some of the little ground rules, please use the chat to keep giving me your responses. Feel free to put your thoughts and views, any reflection that you just sparks in your mind. Just feel free to share that. I'd love to see all of that. We have a separate Q&A that you will see on the top, apart from chat. So chat is for our discussions, while Q&A would be for questions. Okay, I'm just seeing someone who's put that you're not audible. Am I not audible? Is it the volume or is it that you can't hear me? Okay, I am audible. Just to make sure, just to make sure you can all hear me very clearly, I'm also using a mic. Okay, so is it any better now or worse? Can you all hear me very clearly? Okay, this should be even more clear now, hopefully. All good. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Now we'll dive into the session. All right. Um, Coming up on screen are three ladies, and I want you to tell me what is the one word that you will use to describe their executive presence. And we could start with the lady, the first lady on the left. She was also the first lady of the United States of America. So, for Michelle Obama, what is a word that you would use to describe her executive presence? Please put it on the chat, right? I would say grace. And what we mean by executive presence is the one word by which we would describe the way they carry themselves and the impact that they have on us. It's about how you feel about the person's presence and what it tells about them, the credibility that it builds. Um, it tells you about what to expect about them. It tells you more about what the room is going to feel like. It's the feel in the room that they create as well. Great words to describe. Wow, driven, powerful, self-confident, inspiring, Pauline ladies. Okay, assertive communication. Great. And what would you say for Indra Nui? Just Indra Nui, who was one of the first few CEOs, leading CEOs that India has seen, and she's still creating a mark wherever she goes. Beautiful words that I see there. And finally, for Dr. J. Jayalalitha, one of the most powerful women leaders that India has seen, the world has seen. Brilliant. Super commanding. Okay. Owning the room, right? These are women who truly own the room that they are in. Strong leaders, self confident, powerful, fearless, determined. Wow. Fantastic. Yeah. Fondly known as Amma, the queen, the queens. Yes. Okay. So now I have one question for you, which is when you enter a room, what is the one word you would like people to say to describe your presence? Put that on the chat now. What would you want people to say to describe your executive presence when you enter a room? What's the presence that you would like to create? Also, Vinod, I hope that we are recording the session so that people can refer and view later. Wow, the chat is endlessly getting filled, and I'm so happy to see that. Um, so, yes, okay. Problem solver, confident and bold, empathetic, strong, capable, sensible, confident, approachable, positive aura, has gravitas. Yeah. We'd like to be known for our gravitas. We'd like to come across as confident, powerful, charismatic, impressive, strong. Okay, being the cornerstone, bold and straight to the point. Great, great. So, for those of you who are just joining, we're discussing about the one word by which you would want people in a room to describe your executive presence, right? Great. So, this is fantastic to see. And it is also very intentional. Right now, what you have done is you have set your intentions for this session as well, because the executive presence that you want to create is something you define for yourself. I cannot tell you what should your presence be like, but what I can tell you is about how you can build that presence. So the rest of the session today, for the remaining 45 minutes, is going to be about how you can build that presence, that word that you wrote for yourself. And in fact, you now have so many options that you can pick for. So if you want to barter your word for something else that you want to be, you have many more options there. But now let's also do a reality check. All right. For the reality check, I'm going to ask Vinod to add the first poll question. We want to create this presence. And Vinod, you can add the poll question. I'm going to stop sharing. This is the presence that you want to create, whatever you wrote here. But if you are in this training, then I'm sure that there is something that we also want to build for us to reach that ideal state of executive presence that you want to be in. So for that, let's do a reality check. So here's a poll for you on the chat. It's an anonymous poll. We won't know what you answered, but we will know what the room commonly represents. So, do your ideas get talked over or credited to someone else? Is the first poll. So, you have to click on your answer and don't forget to click on submit vote. If only you submit, can we see the answers? So, you share an idea in a meeting. Does it get talked over? Like as though you didn't even exist sometimes, or like some other idea came up and people moved on to something else. The seriousness that you expected is not there, or the idea gets credited entirely to somebody else because somebody else picks up on that and they forget that you were the first to talk about it. Yeah. So I'm saying often 35% of people have said, rarely, good to see that 41% have said that. Great. Let's have the second poll, Vinod. So rarely is that sometimes it happens, too often, and always very few people have said always. And a small percentage, only 9% says that never happens to me. Okay, here's your next question. Do you walk into meetings already shrinking yourself? Do you already feel that I'm not enough? Do you get a little intimidated by the stakes in the room? There are more senior people. When there are more senior or very highly competent people in the room, do you then shrink yourself, right? Um, or do you feel less confident sometimes for the amount of prep that you've done? Once again, let's see what it is. Okay, so rarely or sometimes is leading again at 47%. And often 21% of people feel often, never 29%, which is good to hear, which is very good to hear. 2% feel always, all right. And the next poll, so we're running polls right now for those of you who've just joined, and you could respond on the poll and click on submit. Yeah. Let's have the third poll, Vinod. Here's your last poll. And it's just come up. So do you replay conversations later, wishing you had sounded more confident? The meeting is done, and then you feel, oh, I could have been more confident. I could have said this more strongly. Did I come across as I was unsure? Did I say something and then later alter the perspective? Was I in a position where I said something, but I had to I had to take my words back later? So yes, I see often leading this poll at 44%. Rarely again, which is almost like sometimes, which is 26%. So almost 75% experience this, rarely too often, and another 21% says always. Right. So in every poll, um, most of it, I see never to be a small percentage. Now let's move on to the presentation. Let me just quickly share my screen. So you mentioned the executive presence that you want people to experience when you enter a room. And we also did a little bit of the reality check on what does happen, right? So I want to tell you about the broken rung theory. If you haven't heard about it, this was a book, The Broken Rung, which was published last year by three women, all of them from McKinsey, and this was a Harvard Business Review publishment. And they found that the real obstacle to women's career growth is not just about breaking the glass ceiling, which is about getting to the top level, the leadership level, but it's actually starting at the entry level. So women, as women, we've always seen that we excel in education. Every year, women, girls are almost leading when it comes to the public exam results and the way they excel in college. But what happens is the moment we enter the work and the corporate world, at especially the age that we are in 20s or early 30s, we tend to go through this, which is a failure to get promoted from entry level positions to the first management role. And so, in the broken rung theory, they found that that is the main reason for a career growth delay for women compared to men. And that is one of the main reasons why, comparatively, there are lesser women leaders in positions compared to women, and the whole concept of diversity and why we're trying to build it. So, for every 100 men who get promoted at the entry level, who become, say, associate managers or managers very soon, 81 women become managers. And then, so you can think about how the rate increases. In 5 years, we are already behind by about, more than 20 to 40%. So to fix that, of course, the book talks about lots of other things, but one of the key things that comes out is that executive presence in itself accounts to about 26%. So women always face, especially Indian women from the culture that we come from, um, there's one thing that we often face, which is when you try to be very warm and friendly, then you're seen as weak. But if you try to be assertive and driving, then you're seen as aggressive, sometimes arrogant. And so women constantly see themselves trying to balance between these two ends. And so there's a constant thought about what they are saying and how they are saying, which is probably why the last poll had the maximum response about it. It happens often and always. We say things because that's the polite thing to do, but we might later feel that I could have put that position that better. And that's why here's the new definition to executive presence. You don't have to wait to level up to a certain position to establish your executive presence. It is not about the designation, it is not about your role, it is about how you influence the room. Are you with me? Where you can also see the broken rung slide. Give me some thumbs up so I can. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So glad that all of you stayed. Thank you so much. Um, So this is the book in case you are interested to read further about. And from the broken rung, the final message for us was about executive presence, because it's about how we influence the room. Now, the most important message to carry from here is that we need to focus on our, and if you are focused on your career growth, especially in the first few years, you can break the broken rung theory. And for you to do that here on, it's about influencing the room and owning the room, which is why I'm very passionate about this topic. And let's dwell deeper about what to do. Now, you'd have often heard the word, we live in a VUCA world, right? We live in a VUCA world. What is that? So we have it as an acronym for it's a volatile world. Everything is uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now, the good news is we no longer live in a VUCA world. Yes. But the bad news is we live in a BANI world today. Since the pandemic, this is a new term that has been coined. It was coined in 2018, but it was absolutely welcomed, and everybody said, yes, this is the world that we have now since the pandemic. The pandemic only went to prove that this is the kind of world we live in. So BANI is that we live in a brittle world today. So if you feel that the systems are not strong enough, everybody feels that way. If you always feel anxious, you're unsure about what's happening, you don't know if things will move as planned. Yes, because the world is operating at that kind of a pace that everybody is anxious. If you feel that there is a lot of confusion, nothing is linear, you cannot define a straight line or even a map or a direction. Yes, so things are very confusing for everybody. And from being ambiguous, the world has almost moved on to living and thriving in a world where there is constant incomprehension. You are operating at a pace where you can't fully comprehend what exactly is happening. Then that's happening for everybody too. Like it could be that you're working with AI, you're trying to understand AI, and there's Gen AI already, and then you're trying to understand Gen AI, and you're already incorporating it, but you're trying to understand what is this whole thing. So yes, this is the Bani world. And so the important point that I'd like to make is that the definition of what is executive presence has also evolved. You see, earlier it could be that authority, command was great executive presence. But in a Bani world, people don't look up to command or authority. You lose your executive presence if you establish that. If you lose yourself in a room, you lose your people as well. So in the Bani world, you can't afford to lose it. You can't afford to be the autocratic decision maker. But you're also expected to be a decision maker. I've been a HR in L&D for 15 years now. And very often, I've seen very often that leaders are in the category of not yet ready for that promotion. And one of the most called out reasons is to be able to take decisions. They're not able to take decisions, or they don't have executive communication, they don't have executive presence. You are expected to take decisions, but you can't take decisions in a way that is very commanding and autocratic in a Bani world. So, how do we balance all this? That is the executive presence that I want you to look into. So, now here are two other women. I hope you can see the slide with me. So, from the world that we are in, if you're always in a threat mode, and the threat mode is in two ways. You are threatened because of the ambiguity, the incomprehensibility. It could be that you are anxious and you could put your body in a threat mode. The moment you put your body in a threat mode, the room experiences it. Then you no longer own the room. So there will be uncertainties, that things will break down. And that's when the whole room looks up to who can guide us in this situation, who can show us the true north, who can um, give direction. And the person giving direction need not be the person who has all the answers. They will simply be somebody who's able to read the situation better, is able to bring the calm in the storm in the room, is able to give their presence. And that's the presence mode. The world is increasingly talking about coaching and presence, leaders as coaches. You could be a coach, whether you're a leader or not. You could be a coach. And one of the most important things is to be able to establish presence. Do you know what that is? It's one of the most simplest, basic lessons that we used to hear in childhood, which is to listen, to be present in the moment. That's the difficult thing to do in the Bani world. There is so much anxiety and incomprehensibility, so much of clutter and confusion that are you able to be present in a room, listening to what's happening, what people are saying, not saying, noticing the climate in the room? While they are speaking, are you able to shut down your inner conversations? Are you able to put yourself in a regulated mode, not necessarily to control your emotions or suppress your emotions, but to regulate them in a way that you are able to hear what others are saying, process it, analyze it? Because you know what, you don't have to have all the answers, but there could be answers in the room which we should be able to invite and give direction towards. You should be able to analyze in the room and direct towards what looks like the true north for that discussion. So it's actually pretty easy, but it calls for the awareness about this concept. And obviously, in about half an hour, 45 minutes, the best that I can do is to create awareness. And you can, of course, do more reading about it, find out more about it. I also have a workshop coming up in detail about it. You could also find out more about that and join. So, in a Bani world, the presence that people look for and what can you do for that? Many of you said being confident, being graceful, all that you could do when you are in the presence mode. The moment you get into a threat mode, you will not be able to do that. So, protecting yourself from moving into the threat mode is key. So, for the brittle world that we are in, stay steady. For the anxious world that we are in, for the anxiety in the room, make people to trust your voice. And in the non-linear world, bring clarity. And wherever there is incomprehensible information, create direction. So to own the room, I call this as the gap model to fix the leadership gap, for you to fill the gap. GAP, gravitas, articulation, and power poise. This is something that I've coined from my experience running behavioral and leadership programs for the last 15 years for different organizations. Here's one solution that I have found work like magic. So the first thing is when we say own the room, what we really mean is to not speak from a space of permission. The first thing to remember is to never speak from a space of permission. Never say, "Can I make a point? Can I say this?" You know, and I would like to show you something for that. Yeah. So never say, "I might be wrong." Never say, "I just feel maybe we could." We need to hear conviction, clarity in what you say. So you say, "Here's what I recommend, but I'd like to hear from you. Let's move forward with this. This sounds like a great plan. Thank you for sharing that." And it could be that it's not you giving the plan, but you're creating that direction. "I'll take the lead on this. Let's work on this. I'd like to work further with you on this, and let's get this rolling." Or saying, "I think it might be this or that. I don't know." Say very clearly, the key issue here is this, which is what I gather from the discussion so far. What do you all think? People are actually looking for somebody who can give that kind of conviction and very clear message on exactly what to do or what is happening here. And that's the space where you can own the room. Never use fillers. Never use words that make you sound less confident or, in fact, even make you think that you're not so confident, right? Um, Tone. I just want you to watch this. They're calling it an AI apocalypse, an apocalypse triggered by AI. Are you hearing the audio? Just give me a thumbs up if you are. It has hit India's tech stocks. They've lost more than $22 billion in just 1 week. The trigger is a new wave of AI tools, especially Claude's co-work agent. Claude is an AI platform, just like OpenAI's ChatGPT. Claude is made by a company called Anthropic. It's an advanced workplace system, a system with... Right. So this is Palki Sharma, as you all know, one of my most favorites because she is somebody who turned around the way it was perceived that here's how news anchoring should be. News anchoring was always about being the loudest, being the one who rambles very fast. It's always about and keeping people at the edge of their seat, not being able to eat their breakfast that's in front of them, glued to the screen because they would be so fast. Nation wants to know, kind of a thing. But this woman brought beautiful executive presence there with her tone. And the most important lessons to learn are the three words that you see here. So about um, it isn't about AI and the Claude, forget about that. But it's about what is the trick that she does. The most important thing about the way you speak is about the pace at which you speak, how fast, the frequency, how many words do you say in a minute. And there's a myth that the more words you say, the more fast you speak, the more you're creating your presence. That's a myth, right? Keep it at a pace that is comprehensible. There is enough incomprehensibility and ambiguity in the world already. Do people get more clarity from what you speak, or do people have to do more processing from what you speak? So keep it at a good pace. The the first point here is the even more powerful one, which is the pause. Is exactly what I just did. Pause. Say an important point, pause. Don't fill every silence, pause. It's really about breaking your sentence, just like how you learned in school. If there's a comma, you pause. If there's a full stop, you pause longer. Unfortunately, we have forgotten these lessons and we think that I have to be continuously speaking, then it means I'm making sense. No. In fact, if you pause and not use fillers, you sound even more better. because we think that a pause is uncomfortable. We fill it with, basically, maybe. When you decide to remove all of that and convince yourself with pause, you will remove all of those fillers. And the next most important thing is to keep the conversation simple and impactful. You don't have to use complex terms and complex vocabulary all the time. And never keep adding a comma to your sentence and keep building on it. See, just in this few seconds that I played, we could understand a little about the situation. She goes on to even explain what Claude is in case it's for somebody who doesn't know. She made it so simplified that everybody is with her. And that's the impact, isn't it? What's the impact if you've already lost some people in the room? So that's your tone. So, number one, never speak from a space of permission, but speak from a space of position, that I am part of this meeting. I do play a key role here. Even if you're not the one leading that meeting, even if you're not the one leading that team, speak from a space of position. Second is the tone. The third is your poise. It's about how you carry yourself. And I'd like to play this beautiful clip from the movie Princess Diaries. If you have seen it, it's great. Here's a queen who's training the to be princess, who has a lot of training, a long way to go. I want you to focus on this point about poise. And I'm just going to go straight to the important portion of this video. Not socks, and I never want to see those shoes again. When walking in a crowd, one is under scrutiny all the time. So we don't slump like this. We drop the shoulders, we think tall, we tuck under, and we transfer the weight from one foot to... No, princesses never cross their legs in public. Why don't you just tuck one ankle behind the other and place the hands gracefully on the knees? Charlotte, I think it's time that you... Charlotte, take... Okay, so this was about poise, right? Um, yes, poise and power dressing. So I'm going to say freeze right now. Wherever you are sitting, just freeze as you are sitting and just watch your body language. Do you exhibit confidence as you are seated? Now I would say unfreeze and sit in a posture that makes you look confident and poised. You see, like you saw in that video, one is always under scrutiny, especially when you are at workplace, at a certain position, aspiring to be in a leadership position, at a leadership position, when you're in a meeting, when you're driving the meeting, when you're running a presentation, we are always being read. It's not about judgment. It's about people do read and they do analyze. It's a natural human instinct to always watch the environment and read people. So it's important to always mind the way you sit, the way you stand, and the way you talk. So, about poise, one of the most important things is if you are sitting right now, sit erect with your back straight. One of the most important things to do is to elongate your neck, which is something that we miss often. We tend to slouch like that, never slouch. If you are in a room, and since your camera is off and if you don't have many people around you, I would recommend that you stand up, stand against a wall and see. Stand against a wall and ensure that the back of your shoulders is touching the wall, the back of your head is touching the wall, and drop your hands. And then just take one step forward and then relax your body, but don't completely slouch again. Relax so that if your head is straight, then you can relax. But that is your poised position, right? And also, if you're in front of people, keep your hands in front of you. And there are a lot of power postures, like you could keep your hand in this position or keep it in this position. because suddenly when we're in front of people, we don't know what to do with our hands. Sometimes we just realize, did I have these hands all along? And we tend to clutch something. We start, fidgeting with a pen or our, with our dress buttons. So keep your hand in a position that you are able to focus on your message and the content and not too conscious about your body. So that's one thing about poise. And then about power dressing, there are a whole lot of content online about how to do power dressing and kind of clothes to wear, etc. I'm not really going to get into that now in the positive time. It's not even about that. It's about two things that I want you to remember. One is keep your dressing intentional. Dress for the room that you want to influence, not just for the role that you are in. And some things just go as per the culture that we're in. So it's if you're somebody who prefers to dress Indian, then ensure that it's a crisp kurta or it's a beautiful sari or else a blazer with formal trousers look great. If it's presentations, keep it solid colors, pastels, minimal prints, right? But keep it intentional. The second most important thing is to keep it polished, because power is often communicated with neatness and structure more than anything else. So your clothes are never wrinkled. Your clothes are never worn out or looks like you've just gotten out from bed. You also don't want to look like you're going for a party. So you never want to wear glittery clothes, shimmers, even if it's an eyeshadow, avoid shimmers, right? Keep it nude shades, pastel colors, well-fitted clothes, um, and very subtle accessories. Statement pieces, if required, but keep it as subtle so that you look more serious and professional for the room that you're dressed towards, right? And I have some more examples for you there. Now, in the interest of time, for the time that we lost with the PPT challenges, I quickly move to this important section, but I'd also like to show you one more thing, which is what I want you to remember about owning the room. There is a lot of myth that owning the room is about being the person who talks the most, talks the loudest, has all the answers, but not necessarily. Owning the room is about these three things. And for that, for gravitas to articulate effectively and to have that poise, remember three presence. Internal presence, which is where you are self-regulated, you have emotional steadiness. You're not shrinking yourself like we saw in one of the poll questions. You have that calmness and clarity regardless of the chaos in the room. So have that internal presence. Remember that. Just a reminder to yourself goes a long way in establishing that. Relational presence, which is to respect the people around you, listen to them, and make everyone feel included. Ask people to share, nod at people to do the least acknowledgement, have an eye contact with everybody who's present, right? So these are little behaviors, and the most important thing, smile, is the most underrated, underused, great tool to establish your presence. You're naturally creating the confident figure as well as the warmth or the people friendliness with your smile, right? Um, so I'm just reminded of one leader, the CEO of Chanel, who recently took over last year. Um, just read up in case you haven't seen, because she turned around what perception we used to have, especially about the so Chanel, something like Chanel, which is a luxury brand. There is a perception of, you know, a leader who could even be like Meryl Streep in the movie The Devil Wears Prada, right? But then she brought in the kind of poise where she says, I know everybody by name. She went to every manufacturing site around, she went to every office, She got to know employees, frontline, bottom line employees by name, making them feel this relational presence. The people feel that she's my leader. I can trust her. She's authentic. And she's already established that as her presence through relational presence. She already owned the room that way. In fact, she had the world looking around at her with that. And finally, the poise, which we have just seen in detail as well. Yeah. Since we just have another 5 minutes left, I'm going to open it up for any questions that any of you might have. And I'd also like to share that if you want to know more about this, then we have another program coming up. Um, I'll be delivering this in partnership with SkillUpRight. Vinod will also share about it in the chat. It's going to be, so I would say skip the nap for one weekend, yeah, which is the 4th and 5th of April, Saturday and Sunday, between 2:30 to 5:30, while other women are probably taking their naps. We will learn on this gap model. And I'll be with you. This is a virtual program. And we learn more about gravitas, articulation, and power poise. We can discover in detail because these are topics that take more time. In this 1 hour, I did my best to create awareness around these concepts, and I hope that you found them useful. And you can feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this in future. We can open up for any questions if there are. So if you have a question, you could put that on the chat. So I see one now. Can you elaborate on respect signals? Yes. So um, are we signaling that we respect others, right? While we are establishing a certain point, and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Yeah, while we're establishing a point, maybe even when we're disagreeing with somebody, maybe when we are negotiating terms, there are signals to remember that we respect the other person. And that is to, it could be a smile, it could be your acknowledgements, verbal, non-verbal acknowledgements to nod, like I was saying. It could be to use those magical words of please, I hope you understand, I'd like to hear, and always keep it win-win, you know always hear from the other person. Respect the fact that they could differ in opinion. Respect the fact that this is your view and there's always room for others to share. So, those are the respect signals that we're talking about. If no one around me at the workplace dresses formally, is it uncalled for if I'm dressed very formally? Is it being overdressed? Okay, that's a very, very good question. We don't want to be overdressed, is a thought that we have. Again, I would ask you to start from the presence that you want to create. If the presence that you want to create is about being somebody who's always professional, go ahead and do that. I have done it. I have also seen it where in rooms where people are more comfortable being informal. And if I am personally somebody who is more comfortable and I prefer being professional, it helps me feel more professional. It helps me feel that I mean business. And so I would still dress formally. I just make it very clear about, in case it is welcome, then yes, if it is absolutely welcome, then go ahead and do it. I also request Vinod, please do share the link to register for this upcoming workshop, the virtual webinar, the 6-hour virtual webinar. Kindly share it on the chat window here. Yes, Vinod has just shared. So in case any of you are interested to register for that, you could do that. Any other questions from anybody? There's also a feedback form. We'd love to hear from you about your feedback on the content and the program. It's great to see that we had more than 100 people joining. Thank you very much once again for taking the time out. Thanks, Naveen, for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Narani, for a truly an insightful session, and specifically the practical ideas and powerful perspective that you have given as a valuable takeaways to the participants. And also, I thank the participants because on the Friday evening, and that too, specifically when we have session for women, I was not expecting this many numbers to be there, but also people stayed till the end. Thank you for being a wonderful participants. We hope you find the session meaningful and enriching. You guys have a wonderful day ahead, and thank you. And we'll try to have similar kind of sessions in the coming months, upcoming months. Thank you. Have a nice evening, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks for putting up with the glitches in between. Happens. And so kind of you all. Thank you. I think I had to demonstrate internal presence during the session. So thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.